Hey everyone, this is a piece from the edited volume, The Fate of the Russian Revolution, Lost Texts of Critical Marxism, edited by Matgamna. This is a piece titled USA, the Two Trotskyist Traditions. It's from the Workers' Party. I'm going to read the little introduction to this section. This first paragraph is by Matgamna. As the Stalinists stamped on worker struggles both east and west after the end of World War II, the quote orthodox end quote Trotskyists lurched incoherently towards a position approximating that taken by the other quote other Trotskyist end quote in 1939. In June 1946, they called for the withdrawal of Russian troops from Eastern Europe. At their Congress in March 1948, they dropped the quote defend the Soviet Union end quote in favor of quote defending what remains of the conquest of October end quote. They explained that quote by defending the remnants of the conquest of October, we do not in any way consider the USSR as a whole, end quote. In the USA in 1947, the quote official and quote unofficial Trotskyists agreed to reunify, but there was no clear accounting. The unity agreement collapsed, and in July 1948, responding to the open conflict between Stalin and the new Stalinist ruler of Yugoslavia, Josip Broz Tito, the quote orthodox end quote Trotskyists lurched back, definitively as it would turn out for the next 40-odd years, toward being democratic and left-wing critics of Stalinism. The Cold War, a decline of working-class combativity, a general shift of politics to the right, a new pseudo-left phase of Stalinist policy, a numerical decline in isolation for anti-Stalinist Marxism, made redressment difficult and in the event impossible. Okay, so that was Matgamna introducing this section of pieces. The only piece I'm reading in this recording is this piece, USA, the Two Trotskyist Traditions. Midway in its existence, the Trotskyist movement underwent its severest crisis. It did not survive it intact. Every organization, even the most radical, develops its own conservatism in program and thought and mode of existence. Within limits, this is as it should be, for without the element of conservatism, strictly understood as in serving what has been confidently acquired, political continuity is rendered impossible, and the organization loses its distinctiveness, integrity, and therefore its power of attraction, because its views are changed every other Sunday. But if the organization is lacking in the element of resiliency, if its steering gear is frozen fast in the accumulated ice of dogma, then, especially in times of abrupt turns and changes such as ours, it runs the risk of driving off unscheduled curves to disaster. Faced with the outbreak of the Second World War and the outbreak, this one unforeseen, of Stalinist imperialism in the war, the Trotskyist movement, after its bitterest internal struggle, split in two. To this day, the split has not only been healed, but has not only been healed. I think this is a typo. To this day, the split has not only been healed, but has widened in the United States and almost everywhere else in the world. In the United States, it resulted in the formation of our Workers' Party. The separation between party comrades of yesterday, and especially our break with so deeply respected a teacher as Trotsky, who was even more painful than is usual in such was even more painful than is usual in such cases. Evil intentions were not enough to cause the split. Good intentions were not enough to prevent it. We had to hold to our revolutionary convictions as our opponents to theirs. It was impossible for us to reconcile the duties of socialist internationalism with the Trotskyist position of defense of Stalinist Russia in the war, which the others maintained out of wooden traditionalism. It was likewise impossible for us to remain silent about our views out of purely formal considerations of discipline, especially when it was not always loyally imposed upon us. The issue and the dispute was too great in importance and in the responsibilities we had to discharge. With the advantage now given us by hindsight, it is perfectly clear that the war split of the Trotskyist movement marked a decisive turning point in its history. At this point, two basic tendencies emerged from it and have since moved in divergent directions. One of them is represented by the Socialist Workers' Party and the groups like it, which are part of the Fourth International, a name maintained as if to make up for an unimposing existence with an imposing title. All they have done to discredit the good name of Trotskyism is part of the gloomy history of our time. Almost all of them are tiny sects, opportunistic to the core, as petrified in their political thinking as the most wooden de Leonist. It's a reference to Daniel de Leon. Helplessly bewildered in every new political situation, rigidly ecclesiastical in their worship of a Marx and a Trotsky that never existed, intolerant, vulgarly boastful and bureaucratic, and perfectly sterilized against the possibility of exerting the least political influence upon any movement that seeks a way out of the proletarian dilemma of our time, right-wing socialism or Stalinism. All of them have this in common: their political course is determined for them willy-nilly by the political course of Stalinism. They are tied to Stalinism by their theory that reactionary, totalitarian Stalinist Russia is still some kind of worker state, by their base policy that this state must be defended in every struggle with a capitalist state, by their theory policy that the totalitarian Stalinist parties everywhere are workers' parties on a par with other workers' parties. They have been unable to detach themselves from this organic and fatal tie with the new barbarism that Stalinism represents. Once the revolutionary socialist opposition to Stalinism, official Trotskyism is today reduced to a mere democratic critic of Stalinism. The other tendency is more clearly represented, I think, by our Workers' Party. In the more than 8 years of its independent existence, it has assembled and trained a group of socialist militants on the basis of principles, a program and a perspective collectively elaborated and clarified in such a way that it is recognized everywhere in the labor and socialist movements of all countries as a distinctive revolutionary socialist current. We do not pretend to a strength which we know must first be conquered in struggle. We know only too well our weakness, and the weakness of the Marxian movement throughout the world. But we do lay claim to a program which, while not, quote, finished, end quote, has yet to be successfully refuted by any opponent. Our party, alone among all others, had made a systematic analysis of the social and historical significance of Stalinism, the society of bureaucratic collectivism in Russia, the parties of totalitarian collectivism in capitalist countries. No other party has pointed out and followed a course of implacable struggle against Stalinism and strict independence of capitalism and capitalist politics. No other party but ours has proved able to combat the capitalist influence of reformism in the labor movement without giving aid and comfort to the Stalinist sappers. The sectarians have divorced socialism from democracy, and the reformists have divorced democracy from socialism, with fatal results to both. Our party has distinguished itself in the great tradition of Marx and Lenin by the way in which it has restored, for our own times, the inseparable relation of the struggle of democracy and the struggle for socialism. Where official Trotskyism still seeks to play the role of a wing of Stalinism, we see the role of the present-day Marxists as that of the loyal left wing of the authentic labor movement, the labor movement as it is with all its defects and shortcomings. Where the reformist sects and parties see socialism lying beyond the road of defending American imperialism and the monstrous conflagration now being prepared, and the Trotskyist sects see socialism lying beyond the road of defending the totalitarian Stalinist state, in the next year, as in the last one, our party works unremittingly to build a workers' movement that is fully independent of Washington and Moscow, of decaying capitalism and Stalinist barbarism, that raises the banner of democracy and socialism and fights to victory beneath it. The 20th anniversary of the formation of the Trotskyist movement in the United States is a day for us to celebrate. We do it not simply by reiterating now what we said 20 years ago. We pay deserved respects to the militants who did not hold back when it was necessary to lay new foundation stones and launch a new movement, and thereby added their names to the host of other exemplars of socialist idealism, conviction, and resolution. Where they erred, where they put forward ideas which did not withstand the severe tests of life, we have not followed them, and we need not. But much of what we said, much of what we worked for and fought for in the early days of the Trotskyist movement, did prove to be durable, or prove to be the necessary basis on which to build what is durable. It is ours today. The end. The Workers' Party. I missed a footnote at the beginning. It says, abridged from Labor Action, November 1st, 1948, 20 years of American Trotskyism. So that's it's an abridged piece. But I think we get the thrust of it.